This meeting is being recorded by the Community Preservation Committee. If any other persons are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Anyone recording? Okay, seeing none, we can move on. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order, and I'm going to do a roll call of the members. Donna is not here. Wisty. Here. Sarah. Here. Peter is not here. Garth is not here. Becky. Here. Travis.
Here.
Jack.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum, so we can move ahead on this. Approval of the minutes.
I move that they be approved as written.
Do I have a second? Second. Second from Becky. Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll once again. Wisty.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Becky.
Yes.
Travis.
Yes.
Jack.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, moving on. All right. Under new business, we had a number of processes and documents and things that came up during the course of our deliberations that we put off until now. So I'm kind of going to go through a couple of those things so we can make decisions on them or table them, whatever makes sense. Okay. The first thing was that one of the things that was brought up to us is the idea of limiting the ability of applicants to apply annually. So saying, you know, you can't apply, you can only apply every 3 years, that kind of thing. That was brought up by Ryan. And the question is this something we want to do? In theory, it opens up, you know, the options to a lot more people, a lot more organizations. So it's a valid question.
And it also, if someone has applied and received money, it's different than someone who applied and didn't and wants to reapply. So I would think we would allow reapplications when someone didn't get money.
Okay. All right.
For sure. And then I don't know if you want to have a time limit on how many sequence applications can occur.
Oh, gotcha. But
So,
go ahead.
I was thinking a couple things. One, if it seems like if they're going to reapply, I would like for them to have known why it wasn't accepted before. So it's not just a fool's errand.
Right.
And so I would like there to be some responsibility on our part to be able to let people know. And if it was about their application, if they're going to reapply, I would like them to have addressed some of those things.
Okay,
That's fair.
okay.
Yeah.
What about,
We do that.
what,
We don't tell.
we do tell them.
Yeah,
Yeah, we do. But it would be good to have that discussion, make sure that discussion has happened. In terms of applications where we have somebody that we have funded previous years. I have an opinion, but I'd like to hear other people's opinions before I voice mine.
So you mean even if they
Even if they've applied and received money, do we allow for folks to apply the next year? Or are we going to, Jack?
So I just have two comments. The first one, originally I thought about this when it's the same project. So we funded again one of the pickleball courts, or we did an original 50,000 for the study, and then again this year. So that kind of raised some questions for me about trying to spread the funds a little bit more. But I will say, coming from an agency that we need to demonstrate local support to receive funds from the state and some of the other grant and funding opportunities, that's one of the reasons why the housing authority submitted a very small request of 8,000 for our Conway Street development project because we need to show a local commitment. And so if the housing authority and agencies like Pioneer Habitat is limited from applying again for a different project, it will theoretically inhibit our ability to show local commitment. And so, you know, a letter from the mayor isn't a significant commitment. It needs to be something financial. So I just wanted to bring that up for other committee members to hear from that point of view. That being said, though, if I have a ongoing project or an applicant has an ongoing project and every single year we're coming back for the max we can request from, and I know there's not a max, but you know, if the committee ends up coming up with something, I do feel like that sort of is taken away from other applicants, but I also see if we started a project and we gave due diligence funds for a project and now they're coming back to actually do the project, it kind of, I don't feel like it would make sense for us to limit someone to come back depending on what they originally requested. That's all.
Travis, you wanted to say something?
Oh, yeah, I was kind of thinking the opposite of what Becky said earlier, which is like if someone applied and received funds for a project, they could apply again, but if they didn't receive funds, maybe there's a reason they didn't receive it and they have to wait in order to try for that project again because, you know, some projects people are just maybe they wouldn't get as far enough into the process of like developing what the project is before applying. And if they really had to think about it, like, okay, we got to make sure this is like really nailed down before we apply, because then if it doesn't go through, we have to wait 3 years to apply.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that what it is now? You have to wait 3
No,
years?
right.
No, now there's no waiting at all. This
But-
is the question.
But I kind of feel, I think in general, I feel that we shouldn't have, like anyone should be able to apply any year. Like even if they didn't get funded, they could apply again, or if they did get funded. And especially like an organization, you know, Habitat for Humanity, like we want them to apply every year probably. So I wouldn't want to limit them, even if it was the same project or a different project or. So in general, I think I'm for keeping it how it is and letting people just apply every year. You know, we don't have to fund it, you know, but I also think going back to what Wisty said, maybe on our application, it should say, have you applied for this before and didn't receive funding? If so, why should you be funded now when you weren't funded then? Like what's different now
Or what, yeah, did you address the
Yeah,
issues
did
that
you
came up
address any
because for your
issues?
denial?
that caused you to not be funded prudence? That could be part of the application process.
And I guess like, again, I'm going to talk about the pickleball project.
Mm.
So when they came to us the first time, it looked like the final amount was going to be X.
Mhm.
And when they came to us the second time, the final amount was like hugely more.
Mhm.
And I guess, I guess we could, for me, if that kind of thing happened again, you know, knowing that, like, you know, I would want to know what is the project, you know, how some people come, you know, and they say, you know, this project is going to cost $5 million and we're just asking you for this much.
Mhm.
What I'm trying to say is, I don't want people to come back and sort of keep making it bigger and bigger and bigger. And because we've invested this much, we're going to invest more. But I guess that's part of our discussion that we could say, let's cut it off.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, so
This is really in the
I think
category
that's on us
of,
to not throw good
Go-
money
go
after
ahead, Garth.
bad.
I can't hear you.
say
As
it
I
again,
said, I
Garth.
think that's just on us to not throw good money after bad, right? So,
What are your thoughts beyond that?
you know, just sort of like, you know, every year, like, we don't have to spend everything. So for like, I mean, we have to date, but like, we could be like, you know what? That's not actually a super good project and we'd rather not like dump money in it. Let's roll over the money so we have more for next year, right? we're dealing with pretty limited funds anyway, right? Many other towns have like millions of dollars to
Mhm.
work with. We're looking at like $250,000 total. So I'd be inclined to say like people can keep coming back, but they have to make a good case. And right, if they've come back 3 times in a row and we're like, no, it's still, we don't think this is a good use of the funds. Like, I mean, I don't want to like stop them from coming back yet again, but also we're probably not going to fund it.
Wouldn't that maybe come up also when we're hearing the applications for the first time and discussing it with them, it might help them.
Yeah,
Right.
I think the idea behind this is that we have funded the same organization several times. Not necessarily for the same project, but
And
we
I
fund.
guess I don't have a problem with that in general, like, right, obviously
Mhm.
like housing, like the rec department gets little to no funding from the town, right? There's a bunch of chunks that don't get, like, this is their only chance for funding sources. Other than capital, which is kind of shot as well. Um, so,
Yeah.
I don't feel like we should be like, oh, well, this is another recreation department. We can't have that.
No, I agree with you. The thing that struck me is I was thinking of Habitat in particular. We have funded 3 different projects for Habitat every single year that we've done funding. I would hate to put a limit on their ability to apply, just because they got money last year. And it seems to me that I think the discussion that we've had has said, we can work this out, within our structure if we think a project is not going to be good, or if we think that there's something that, is amiss, or if we just have large questions. But I don't think we should have you can only apply every 3 years thing, because I think that limits certain very worthwhile projects. Go ahead.
So there are 2 different issues. One is like both the example that Garth gave, he was talking about the rec department.
Mm-hmm,
And the one that you gave, you're talking about Habitat.
mm-hmm,
But the project is to build this house
mm-hmm,
or to do this specific thing.
right.
And so that's different than thinking about like the fairgrounds. We've done them twice, but it was for this project and then it was for this project.
Right,
But it wasn't just the fairgrounds.
right, right, right. And we've never, we can narrow that as much as we can within our deliberations. I just don't think we should say the fairgrounds can't come back to us ever again for another 3 years. That I find, if there's something that's worthwhile that has to be done, then we can make the determination. We can say in our deliberations, we've funded them twice now. We've got these other projects that we think are more worthwhile. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So that's my thought.
Yeah.
But I will say, oh, go ahead, Jack.
I may have missed it. Did Christian ask if any of the other CPCs have a time limit or a number of applications that they have incorporated into their committees?
No, I've not reached out about that.
I just was curious if there's any other municipalities or any other committees that have done something like this and established. Just curious.
Yeah, somewhat tangential, but I have my community preservation committee coordinators group that meets monthly, and one of the topics they were talking about, when even a topic just came up naturally, was that some of them, based on what town they're in, certain categories, specifically housing, they're actually struggling to find projects in that category. So for them to, I don't think they'd even consider the idea of limiting people from coming back when they can't even find people in the first place. So there are places that are struggling in general. So
We offered to have them build their housing here. I mean,
If it's close
We
to
have the
Greenfield, we
800
we can do that. We can do that.
On Franklin, yeah, on the French King Highway.
Yeah, people have done that before, in other towns, actually. Okay, so do we feel we've, kind of run through our thoughts on this? Do we want to take a vote on it, or what do we want to do?
I'm not sure what we're
I just wanted
saying.
to say one more thing, which is kind of, I think Wisty was kind of saying, if the same project is coming back, maybe not allowing them to do it again, but I would even say we should let them, because, for example, let's say the pickleball, we gave them money to do the site assessment. Let's say they did get, $300,000 from city council, and then they came back to us and like, oh, we can finish off if you give us this much more. So I wouldn't want to limit them on the same project either, because it could work out great,
Mhm, mhm.
Or, next year they could say, oh, we raised $800,000. Can you give us $50,000 more and we'll finish it off?
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna happen necessarily, but
That's a good point.
so
what you're
I
saying.
wouldn't want to limit the same project either.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we don't limit now.
We do
No.
not.
So if we don't do anything, everything stays,
Yes, everything stays the same.
we don't have to
Yeah.
make.
We don't have to have a vote on it.
Okay.
Okay, so is there any interest in having a vote on it? Go ahead, Garth. So moved? So moved, that there's no vote?
So moved to not do anything.
Okay, all right, then and unless does anyone have any difference of opinion on it? I realized that I skipped something in going to the new business. We do have one person who is not a member of this committee who is on this. And we can be open for public comment. Kennedy, is there anything you would like to say in regard to anything that we've been doing, or not just this recent discussion, but anything else?
She's a reporter.
Okay. Kennedy, then we're moving right along then. Okay, then we don't have any public comment. Okay. More robust signage for our projects. I don't know if anybody has gone down Wells Street, but the banner for is up on the side of the building for the Wells Street shelter. And it's our banner that says, and I'm just wondering if you've seen it, if you think it's adequate, or what is it, about 4 feet long?
So like, I think they're
I think it's
2 by 4.
I think it's 4 feet
Yeah,
long,
2
2
by
feet
4.
wide. Yeah, that's about right. So is that enough? Do we want to have something bigger? Do we want, is there, what would you all like?
I think the other aspect is if there should be required permanent signage, maybe even
okay.
depending on the cost of the project, or
Mhm.
even just specifically whatever kind of project it is, if it's relevant for there to be permanent signage.
Okay, so there are two things. One is what we have now adequate? And let's talk about that one, and then we can go to, do we want permanent signage for certain things? And if so, how do we want that to be dealt with?
The one thing, so what's in the agreement that all applicants sign after it's been approved by city council is that the temporary signage is required, and we will provide them with the temporary sign. If they do install a permanent sign that lists the funders for the project, the CPC is required to be listed, but they're not required to create that sign or any other permanent sign. It's just if they do, we have to be on the list.
Yeah, I would not think the people who move into a Habitat for Humanity house want a little sign back out front necessarily, so. But I like the temporary. I think temporary is important.
I haven't seen the Wells Street one yet. I mean,
Yeah.
I see the one on the garden
Mhm.
all the time.
And I haven't noticed it and I walk by it all the time. Am I just
Yeah,
being
it's hanging
obtuse?
down from.
Yeah.
Likewise, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I drive by and I see it, yeah.
Yeah, it's up fairly high because of the way the building is.
Yeah, I think everyone,
Yeah.
most people that walk, when you're walking in, it's pretty hard to miss that, which is
Above.
Mm.
Yeah, so everyone that's going to the movie theater right now is seeing CPC.
Right.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what size they are, but I think like Northampton has pretty big signs,
Mhm.
like pretty big CPC signs. So and I know we talked about this initially, which, is like, do we have like like signs that push into the ground, like have some of those and have some banners,
Mhm.
because different projects, like different things might work better. So
Mhm.
it's kind of hard, like, I don't know how we could do it on a project by project basis. Like if we talked about it in our deliberations,
Mhm.
like we could have different categories of
Mhm.
signs. We could have like giant signs, the signs we have now, and then like small signs, and say like, oh, well, that's a category A sign, that's
Mhm.
category B, based on what it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
I'm just remembering when I used to live in the Ozark Mountains, when I would come across the surveyor's sign, and it would just be hidden in the woods. And there it would be, this metal sign, that would be so exciting to me. So even with the Habitat House, historically, I think it'd be so cool to have some kind of a permanent thing, that historically, and I don't know exactly what it would say, but just to know that the community loved and supported this idea, it's kind of a compliment in a lot of ways.
Garth?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have noticed the Wells Street banner sign. There's been so much other construction and JS Ray in the way on Main Street that I have not noticed anything other than just trying to not get killed when passing through in front of the Garden Cinema. But I believe they have something there. And I know when we sort of like the first year we were talking about like, oh, what if we like have little like little brass plaques that like get set in for like actual construction projects that say like partially funded by Greenfield CPA funds. Uh, so I could certainly see, as I think Travis mentioned, sort of different levels of things, right? If you're doing something in Highland Park, like, oh, this trail work supported by, like, that's sort of like a stick it in the ground, political lawn sign thing. Some of the smaller construction things, or we're doing under 50%, it's just a banner while it's happening. Some of the like the larger things, I think it would be cool to have like a little disc or a little plaque that gets, stuck in the sidewalk or in the doorway thing or something like that that says, this is a CPA funded, partially CPA funded project kind of thing.
Christian was just looking at something and I was looking over his shoulder. Yeah, at the Somerville one. Yeah.
This is what Somerville has. Ooh.
So is that a tile?
That's cool.
I'm not exactly sure.
That's what I was thinking. Oh, okay.
Do we want to explore this a little bit more? That's what I'm hearing. Does that make sense that, if that's a tile that goes into, a sidewalk near something, that sounds pretty cool to me. But why don't we explore this a little bit more and come back to it next meeting? Does that make sense?
See what some other towns are doing.
Yeah.
To me, that does kind of look like a metal sign that,
Mm,
like a boundary marker sign sort of thing, to a tree.
yeah.
Kind of looks like that.
Even so, we could get something made in like, those concrete things that people will make, we can literally have it installed in like a garden in the corner of a housing lot or, in like the garden, when they were redoing the sidewalks, they could have put it in their sidewalk, something like a tile of that kind, will last a long time if it's not damaged. And it would be cool if we could put the year in there too, just for the historical aspect of it for people in the future.
There you go. Okay, so I'd like to, if it's all right with everybody, to table this and maybe get some more information from other communities and come back to it next month.
Mhm.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Now, on how did you hear about the project survey? We had that as part of our discussion when we were doing our analysis of the programs. And I wanted to take a look at it because we've gone through this. We've really tried to do some community outreach stuff, which has had moderate success in terms of doing face-to-face stuff. But I'd like to take a look at that in relation to what people are telling us about how they've learned about things. Okay, so 23% was word of mouth. The largest number was Facebook and Instagram, which is, I guess, not surprising, but always amazes me. Email to some extent. The flyer was only 2%, and that's why that's part of what I'm wondering about. Is we spent a lot of time trying to get those flyers out, and then the recorder, the articles in the recorder that we put in, and then other. I don't know what the other would be, but
Yeah, it was like really just like super random stuff. Like that really didn't fit into anything else.
My cousin heard about it in their town, that kind of stuff.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to know what people think. What does this tell us? What do we want to do in the future for next year?
Do we do anything on radio? Anybody have interviews?
One year I got interviewed.
That's right. I remember that one year you got interviewed. We had done things like we went down to the Green River and, unfortunately it was during the drought. And so there weren't a whole lot of people there. I mean, we've hit a number of things that have not necessarily worked, partially because of random things that we had no control over. And then, things like, I know we had a table at the farmer's market, which was pretty successful. So,
What if we did for $500, we support the Stone Soup thing for a weekend, and flyers go in every bag about that. I mean, again, it's flyers, but it doesn't need to be an 8.5 by 11. It could be something smaller. And a banner outside on that weekend. That kind of, there's already so many public events that we can just kind of tag into and support.
Right.
Actually, we could put something maybe with the permission of the library in or near the Greenfield History Room for their CPC project anyway, and enough people visit the library on a regular. We could do something
Has
there.
anybody ever sat in the library for one of those information sessions that?
We haven't done anything in the library.
Have done that. Not like a meeting, but like
Right.
sat all day at a
Right.
table.
Right. No, we haven't done anything like that.
I'd be willing to do something like that. So once I know more.
Part of advertising it is advertising the point of the committee and the work that we do. So like, I wonder if either like the Chamber of Commerce or like the schools, would be willing to put a little message in, to employees or something. Hey, there's this thing that goes on, that sort of explains just a little bit, but just to say it would be helpful if you look and see what people have said and give your opinion, instead of just trying to contact people, and it seems like the schools would be a really neat kind of place. And like the rec department maybe would be, to put it on their site because people are tuning in. What were you gonna say, Sarah?
Like the tech school, how they can do a bunch of wide reaching programs. They could help with like habitat.
Well, like I'm thinking even, notes go home to kids, about this and that, and I don't know if they can legally just put something in about, you might want to look and see what people in your community want, or, different things that our tax money could go to.
Have we had a follow-up with any of the people that the projects that we've funded? Like, could we have people from the garden, do a little thing like before the movies, they have commercials and say, hey, we got this project done by the CPC. And we have people talk about the projects that go on, or, like actually follow up with the recorder and be like, how was the process? How was it like working with the CPC? What kind of application process is it? Well, have them tell each other
That's kind of
what it's like. Alternatively, are we allowed to have our own Facebook page as a subsidiary of the city Facebook page? Because we could publish And or like using the city's Facebook page, we could publish events on our, on our own behalf and be like, hey, the CPC is gonna be doing this year, et cetera, without going into, crossing into like, if I post about it, it's it's a little less formal, a little less okay.
I mean, 90 respondents.
Exactly, and I'm thinking like if we have our own page or we use the city's page and we promote ourselves, rather than having people talk about it.
Certainly,
it's
we
like-
could certainly talk with Matthew about doing more on the city's Facebook page.
Right, I'd rather have it
That'd
on
be
the city
interesting.
page than on everything in Greenfield.
One of the things we could ask is if Matt could come to our next meeting to talk about that.
I will say he probably does more Facebook posts for this committee than almost any other committee out there already. There's definitely a higher bar to clear if we are so
But
inclined.
maybe he has some other ideas about things we could do.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
But one thought I have is maybe we need to do more like paid advertising too, like we could buy ads on Facebook, like we could buy an ad in the recorder, we could pay for an ad to show before movies at the garden, like we have this, we have funding to be able to get the word out, and maybe we have to go that route to get, another thought I had was like, I know you can get lists of like like mailing lists of people in a town or whatever, and do like a random sample of postcards to go out, like send out 1,000 postcards to 1,000 random households in Greenfield. We could do, we just have to spend some more money.
Yeah, we have to spend some more money to do it, and I think we have to decide, it is, I think there's a question of what is the benefit in relation to doing this, and I'm not saying no to any of this, I'm just
Yeah.
saying that I think we need to think through, is this something where we need to talk to, considering that we're often looking at organized people as opposed to individuals? Does it make sense to go to the Elks, to go to the Kiwanis, to go to wherever and talk with them more than doing postcards? And I don't know the answer to that question. But I think maybe we have to think through a little bit more, a plan to be able to do this. I mean, we tried some stuff and they've moderately worked. But it shows that the Facebook stuff has been the most effective in terms of people who have responded to any of our pieces at this point. So I think that we have to look at that.
Right, well, Facebook ads are certainly cheap, for $20 you can probably hit most of Greenfield. Yeah,
GCT.
Maria, it's a quirky thing because you want to hit people who actually have viable projects, right? Everybody's got an opinion on like where the money should be spent, but in fact, very few people have the connections and the actual control of an area to be able to do a project on that area. Right? A gazillion people come to Christie and be like, oh, we want to do X, Y, and Z at this thing. Right? And like she's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And some of them are, the rec department doesn't actually have capacity to help shepherd any of that through.
I think these are people who are ranking the projects, though, not the people doing the project.
Right.
It's kind of two different groups of people.
Right.
I don't even think enough people really know what the Community Preservation Commission does. I didn't know until I sat down at this table.
Mhm.
And so it's still a matter of, it's only 3 years, right?
Yeah.
It might take 10.
We're in our fourth, actually.
To get
the
more-
first year. Yeah. No, it certainly is going to take a while. So we're going to be planning, I guess mostly what I'm thinking about is we're going to be planning for next year, starting next month, I believe. So think about, if there's a different kind of outreach, I'm not, I mean, we've got a lot of ideas here, but think about if there's something in specific that strikes you that we want to try. We don't have to do it all at one time because that'll probably drive us all a little bit crazy. But we could do something that we haven't done before. We've always had ads. We've also always had articles in the newspaper. We've had these
Right.
leaflets that we've used. We've done a little bit of face-to-face outreach, the most successful being at the farmer's market. And, I mean, the library thing sounds to me like it might be interesting, but but in any case that we can look at maybe 2 or 3 things that we want to do over the course of the summer, early fall, to be able to get ourselves into a position to be able to, to let people know about applications and when they're due and all of that kind of stuff.
Well, I want to say one other thing.
Sure.
If we think that's just visibility, because I agree with you that what I think you're saying, that a lot of people just don't know about the committee and all that. Okay, so if we had some kind of folders with pictures and with words, like that somebody can take in and put on a table, that somebody can pass by, like that would have really even helped at the farmer's market. And that stuff all takes time to develop.
Right.
And, if we could just do a couple of presentation boards or something that people could take to different places, it would be easier for us to do that kind of thing.
Okay. Let's think about that.
Yeah, and I really like what you were saying about getting people who've already been funded, a variety of people, even like, John McGee and his bike racks. So and so with their,
Isaac, he's running for
Yeah,
sheriff,
yeah.
we
Yeah,
can
right.
really,
Do we have photos of any of the things that have already been completed?
Yeah.
We do. Okay.
Oh, here's an idea, not to steer
Go
from
ahead.
the thought. What if we had a booth at the fairgrounds? Yeah, during the county fair. Like in the front where people are walking in.
that's county.
Yeah, so it's
We
not
get
the
the
target,
target.
yeah, but I
Well, we could say, hey,
like the
your
idea.
town might have, which
You
that's
know,
true.
Share the staffing with
Right, I
the
mean, you
other
could do like
CPA.
4th of July, you could do Juneteenth,
Oh, Drewbury.
Right, and then-
Juneteenth, yeah,
you know,
do
fire-
Juneteenth.
fireworks.
Juneteenth is going to be on a Saturday this year. It's going to be the 21st.
Oh, cool. And that gives people enough time to have pre-applications if they want.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Juneteenth might be a possibility. I'm going to be there anyway selling soap, but that's beside the point. So,
and
yeah, there's soap and CPC. Okay, so, again, I think let's think about it next month when we start really planning the summer stuff, come with specific ideas of things you want to do, because it's really June, July, and August, and after that, we're in soup again. So that's the other thing, it's summertime, we do a lot of this, so that makes it really hard. Anyway, okay. Onward.
having some.
Adding money to the request for the project application, you had some information.
Yeah, so that was a question that occurred during the voting meeting. I was asked to reach out to Stuart at the Community Preservation Coalition to ask that specific question. So what I had asked him was, can a CPC grant more funds to a project than the applicant is requesting? And I used Jack's project as an example. For example, if a housing authority is requesting 15,000 for a rental assistance program, could the CPC grant the housing authority 30,000? The application is for 15K. Another way of framing the question is there anything in the CPA law or DOR guidelines that would prohibit a CPC from granting additional funds beyond what is requested? And what Stuart said was that the CPA legislation doesn't mention anything about applications nor the rules surrounding them. That's completely determined locally. So there's no requirement to adhere to the details in an application. CPC has complete control to change anything they want about the project, so long as they are specific in their final recommendation vote. So the CPC can absolutely award more money than is listed in the application and specify what that money is for. If there is time, amending the application to reflect the changes is definitely a good paper trail. But even if the application is not amended, the project scope would follow what is decided in the minutes of the CPC meeting, the specific wording of the recommendation vote, and specific wording in the city council appropriation vote. So the answer is yes, but the motion that you make for that project would have to be much more specific. than what we've done the last couple of years, because the last couple of years, we're just approving the application as written, and that's the clause you have to say. With this scenario, you have to be very specific. But yeah, you
It's a
could.
pretty specific application though.
Right, but we'd have to say why we are awarding more than was requested, but that would have to be part of the motion.
Yeah. I think if there's a desire to,
Motion to boost the funding for the rental, rental assistance to 30,000 because we think it should get more than the requested amount.
Because the
kind of
need is
thing,
greater.
Yeah.
I think if there is a desire amongst anyone on the committee to boost funding for something, I think it should be expressed at some point prior to the final voting meeting, if at all possible. And then we can go to the applicant and make sure that like they're gonna accept it. And then also then at that point, they can amend their application. Because I think it's just very confusing that even if you do the proper wording of the vote and submit it to city council, someone looking at the application, it's not reflected in the application. So even though that disconnect is allowable, it's still a disconnect that could cause a lot of confusion. But yeah, we could do it if we so desire.
So yeah, I guess unless anybody wants desperately to do this right now, which would require some major work, this is for future reference and we know about it.
What kind of major work would it require?
Well, I think because we're not quite sure, but we think everything's going to be going before the council this month, yes?
Yes, the first
Yes,
reading.
yeah. We would have to, do the rewrite, connect up, we could, considering what we're talking about is Jack's project, connect up with Jack, have some kind of rewrite, get that into city council and get that, and get them to approve it. We could approve it in June, and ask for it to be, to have, something special done in June, but it would be amidst the budget process, and it would be hell.
At this point, if you are talking about that very specifically, it's far enough along now that I would consider it a separate appropriation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Jack?
Yeah, I wouldn't try to do it for anything that's in already.
okay, so,
It would just be like, if in the future we want to do something, we could do it, but.
okay,
Yeah, I
Um,
think I plan on this being a very successful fund and coming back to the committee because there will be a great need for it. Susan, we were talking about potentially some like foreclosure stuff. And so
right,
that could also be, a fund for a mortgage payment if they can't or have already gone to raft. And so these are things that, I think we do as a committee have the ability to look at a project outside of our normal funding round, right? And so
Mhm.
if we exhaust the funds that are given, within 3 months of the receipt of them, and the committee was willing to receive an application and review it and ask, I think that makes more sense than trying to interrupt everything that's already been sent to city council.
Okay, so for future reference, just to give you an idea of what we were talking about is I'm talking with a bunch of people about the question of if we go into recession, which as we all know is somewhat likely, then we've got raft for renters and raft is available for homeowners, but it doesn't go very far. So the question of, is there a way we can find out information ahead of time so that we can help someone who is going into foreclosure in any number of ways if we can, that kind of thing. So we're trying to figure that out right now.
Now, that would be done outside of the city council budget. But our money's separate from the
Yes,
city council.
right.
So
Right,
in September, Jack might have used all the 15,000. He could say, we need more, and we could say yes and make.
we could, it's going to require, it'll have to require we'll have to figure out a special application process for it because it'll be outside of our regular application, but we could do that. We could do that, certainly we could do that.
I could develop like an emergency application, like something like that.
I mean, at this point, you really,
Yeah.
you could make a
Do
motion in this
anything.
meeting right now if someone had come to us 2 days ago and said, I need this money for this emergency, and if the committee felt it was relevant enough, and that
Right,
you could just go for it.
Because
Right.
some communities, they don't have a specific, they just,
just-
whenever they come in, they vote on them and then it goes forward.
yeah, so we could do that and we could have that flexibility. So,
That's nice.
It's up to us.
okay,
I
So
think those are usually like smaller communities that
Yeah.
are struggling to get enough applications.
to do housing, yeah, right.
So like anytime they come in.
Okay, so I think we've got now an understanding of what we can do, which is helpful for both emergency applications and for regular applications as we move forward. Cool. All right, old business.
Old business, updates to prior year projects. I have 4 updates for various projects. The Agricultural Society barn rehabilitation, that has the order that from the mayor to the city council has been submitted for the preservation restriction. So that should be going before city council maybe next month or May
Right?
during the budget.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting. The Historical Society document preservation, the bulk of that payment has been made to them and the volunteers are finishing that up this spring. They're finally able to, I think I might have told this update before, but they're having a hard time getting into the building during the winter because they don't have heat. So
So this is something we did in 2023. This is not the thing that we just voted on.
Okay.
Yep. And then for fiscal year 2024, the final payment was made for the Tim Grader / Franklin and Main LLC downtown housing pre-development work. So that project is complete. They finished all the pre-development work and are moving forward towards construction. And the Habitat for Humanity, the 90% payment has been made to them and we'll make the final payment when the family or individual moves into the house in a couple months.
Yes, just on Habitat, just so you know, and any of you should feel free to come. On May 12th, I believe it is, it's the Saturday. There is at 4 o'clock at the Habitat building, the new Habitat house, not the new one, but the one from last year that we put through, which is over on Petty Plain Road. They will be having a 4 o'clock, a little opening and celebration. And you are all invited. It's 4 o'clock at the Petty Plain Roadhouse. It's you would park in the area where you park for the fairgrounds, and it's right across the street from the fairgrounds.
May 12th is a Saturday, because I'm away for the 11th, which is Sunday, right?
May 12th is a Monday.
So it's May 10th then.
Oh,
That's Saturday.
So
And-
take pictures.
So,
everybody take
I'm gonna do a quick and dirty. We're really pleased that this is happening and be glad that we give you the money. And so it's, but everybody should come. I was there for when they did basically one of the wall raisings is what they did. And it was very nice. It was a very, very nice event. So everyone should feel free to come to that because you're all part of it.
Cool.
Okay. All right. So that's what we have. Okay. Is there anything else that anybody would like to bring up for discussion?
Just remember that in July will be the public hearing on the plan.
Right,
The
right,
city, the
right.
committee is required to have a public hearing every year to update its plan. So that will be
Okay, so we need
presumably
to,
the regular committee meeting date, but in July.
right.
20 something.
So we need to have a public hearing on that. So people should look at the plan. If we have to have changes in it, we should have that discussion happen in June.
Can we, back to the outreach piece, if we're thinking about things that we might want to do or want to bring to the group to think about,
Mhm.
can we send send emails in advance so that, or do we have to just bring it and talk about it?
No, the way it works is you would send an email to Christian. Christian will share it with everybody.
Yep, yeah, if people are thinking of ideas on who and where to share information with, we can, I'll make a list. So
Okay.
whoever has any ideas, I'll make the list and send it out with the agenda packet for the next meeting.
So, you were saying we should do the updates.
We should
I think
do
in the past, we did the public hearing and then we did the updates.
Right,
Done.
okay, back on the public hearing. Yeah, I was thinking of the other way. Okay,
We got to the
yes.
public hearing in June, because
Yeah.
it's always been like a tight turnaround because we want to release the pre-applications in August.
Right,
So we
right.
could have it in
June,
June if so desired.
June.
The public hearing.
The public hearing, we could have that as part of our meeting. We don't have to have it as a full meeting. We can just have a public hearing as part of our discussion, didn't you? Yeah. So why don't we have that for the June meeting then?
And we have to have it once every year, not once every fiscal year.
Right, right.
Because
Oh, yeah, correct. Yeah.
we have
once-
been doing it in July.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I believe the wording is just once every
Yeah.
annually.
Yeah. So
And it's just that people will come and talk about how they like it.
whatever they, whatever, with things that they think we should be doing. So we need to do a press release for that then.
Press release and it will be noticed in the paper.
Right.
2 weeks in advance.
Okay.
And that's a meeting where we could like try to get a lot more public feedback on like, just in general, like what types of projects are you interested in?
Mhm.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be just about
Right.
the
Yeah.
plan.
Right.
and the
And we-
testing plan.
Some-
And we could also
sometimes-
ask about the outreach stuff.
Yeah, and like, I know we talked about like some communities do like, I don't know, like a more fun thing for
Right.
that. And like, we could like have pizzas and say like free pizza, come tell us, what to do about our plan or whatever.
Food is
So,
always, it's
yeah,
always a draw.
I mean, so we could really
We
like
could,
bulk it up like that and try to get people to come, and that would get people to know what we're actually doing.
Yeah,
Or we did it at the Greenfield swimming pool, when they have all those
That's what I was
tables, the
thinking.
tables set up.
Like a
there's
burger
enough-
and dog
Yeah.
grill or something.
We could have a meeting there, like our meeting could be
Well, it has to be
somewhere.
recorded.
other than-
it would either.
Oh, it has to be recorded.
Recorded, it has to be.
It doesn't, it only has to be recorded if it's a hybrid meeting.
Hybrid meeting, right, but we
Oh, we have to have.
we
a
have-
hybrid.
And we
have
have.
to have, have to have.
Oh,
a
yeah, this
hybrid
committee
meeting.
is one of the few that's
Right.
So it could be at the John Zahn with
Which is what we've
pizza.
done in the past. We've done it at the Johnson.
Yeah,
Well, do they have a grill? We could do it out.
They-
Do the parking lot.
They're very fussy about their
Mhm.
kitchen.
Mhm.
Anyway, so we can talk about
Right.
that.
Well, the
No
question is, this is the May meeting. This is the May meeting. If we're going to do it in June, we need to
Oh,
talk about it now.
it's Gene, yeah.
If we want to wait until July, we can talk about it next meeting.
Well, no, next meeting is in May. And then-
Right, right. Right, next meeting is in May, right. So we have another month to figure this out. Okay. Cool. I just feel like it's May already. Okay. Life has been moving too quickly. Okay, so, all right, so let's plan to have this as a discussion in May. And thinking about a June public hearing as opposed to a July public hearing. And think about whether we want to do something like, do we want to have it to see if we can move it to the Johnson, to see if we can do something like pizza? I have been in meetings there where they've had pizza. It's possible
Bring
to
it.
do it. Or something like that. And if we do we want people to pre-register so that we know we have enough, or, that kind of thing. Anyway, so,
Yeah, I already have a hold on the John's on for both June and July.
oh,
I actually,
Right.
I have it recurring where both this spot and the John's on is booked for us, and I delete whatever one we don't need.
great,
Every month.
great. So, we love it. So then why don't we plan to have it there in June? And we can figure out what that constitutes next, in May. Does that make sense to folks?
Hmm.
Okay.
Sure.
Anything else for us to discuss? Then I will entertain a motion.
sure. I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay.
right.
Thank you very much. See you on May 22nd at 6.